Member from Parkdale High Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Today, the TTC is meeting to discuss another round of fare increases and service cuts that will in fact hurt transit riders. It's hard to see how the TTC can maintain ridership when transit keeps getting more expensive and service keeps getting more uncomfortable, less reliable and less convenient. The TTC used to be the envy of North America back when the provincial government provided 50% funding for TTC operations. The Tories cut the funding and it stayed cut under the Liberals. What will the Premier do to ensure that the TTC remains, in fact, the better way?
Thank you. Premier.
Minister of Transportation.
Transportation.
Thanks very much, Speaker. I want to thank the member from Parkdale High Park for her question this morning. Speaker, that member would know, every member in the legislature would know that our government, not only the last couple of years, Speaker, but over the last number of years, has made a significant investment to transit in the City of Toronto and right across the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, Speaker. A couple of things to keep in mind. For example, since 2004, the provincial government has provided almost $2 billion, almost $1.8 billion in gas tax funding specifically to the City of Toronto. And in this current year, Speaker, that number is at around $170 million. Wow. There is a long list of projects that we provide support to, Speaker, that are so crucial to making sure that the people of Toronto and the people of the entire region have the transit network that they so richly deserve, Speaker. And I'm sure in the follow-up question, I'll have the opportunity to go through some of those crucial projects. Thanks very much.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Back to the Premier. The Premier, when she was Transportation Minister, forced the TTC to accept Presto, which has been unreliable and extremely expensive. Yeah. She just downloaded transit costs onto Toronto that her government had originally agreed to pay. She has ripped up long-standing transit plans, bringing more chaos and waste, and TTC riders are paying the price. Since she became Premier, the cost of a Metro Pass has risen twice as fast as inflation, while service is worse. Instead of downloading more costs onto TTC riders, what will the Premier do to make transit affordable and convenient for Toronto riders?
Thanks very much, Speaker. I think the most important thing for that member and all members in the House to do, Speaker, is to take a look at the whole picture. Over the last few years and currently, Speaker, here is a list of the projects that are being supported by our Premier and by the Ontario government. So, for example, Speaker, $3.7 billion for GO Regional Express Rail, specifically in the 416, Speaker. $450 million to deliver the Union Pearson Express on time and on budget. $416 million from the province to support the purchase of 200 new streetcars. Approximately $8 billion for the Toronto LRT plan, Speaker, including the Crosstown and the Finch. I mentioned the $1.75 billion in gas tax funding, $172 million for the revitalization of Union Station, $150 million to Metrolinx to support the planning of the regional relief line, Speaker, and the list goes on from there. Our Premier and our government will continue to invest in transit in Toronto and right across this region. Thank you.